Hello there. Rishi Sunak's trip to Northern Ireland is probably less about doing what's best for the community and more about sucking up to Joe Biden and Brussels. So the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has gone to Northern Ireland to try and sell his new protocol deal with the EU to the DUP loyalists. This is the deal with Brussels that has reportedly been sat on Sunak's number 10 desk for over a week, while he mulls over how to fob it off to the unionist community. And that for a start should set off alarm bells. If it's such a good deal that he's brokered with the Eurocrats, then why hasn't it been given an airing already? My guess would be that it still requires a part of the United Kingdom, in the form of Northern Ireland, to remain locked inside the jurisdiction of that pro-EU political setup, the European Courts of Justice. And none of this is about Northern Ireland per se, it's all about the optics of Joe Biden and the 25th anniversary of the Belfast Agreement on the 10th of April. We must keep Joe sweet by coming to a deal, even a rotten deal. It matters not what the unionist community wants, it's all about being seen to have found a solution and pushing the DUP into a power-sharing executive with Sinn Féin. And with a Sinn Féin First Minister too, something that Joe Biden and his pro-United Ireland administration will revel in. I reckon Rishi's over there begging the DUP to sacrifice themselves to help him look good on the international stage. And if Rishi is over there asking them to meekly accept the continuation of de facto Brussels rule over Northern Ireland, then he's showing his true non-UK colours and should relinquish his position as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party, or change the name of the party. And this is what the DUP's chief whip in Westminster, Sammy Wilson, said. What we want to hear, most importantly, is where the negotiations have reached in removing the automatic application of EU law to Northern Ireland, without any democratic input from the representatives in Northern Ireland, and without any ability to change those laws if they are detrimental to Northern Ireland. We've been, quite frankly, abandoned to the EU ruling Northern Ireland through the imposition of single market rules. And abandoned is the right word, abandoned by pro-EU politicians, officials and courts. But the unionist community has no friends in the Labour Party either. Labour just wants a deal, any deal, signed off. Here's what their shadow Northern Ireland secretary said in a tweet. We hear for the umpteenth time a Northern Ireland protocol deal is near. To reiterate, if a deal can be done, Rishi Sunak should do it. UK Labour, with Keir Starmer's firm leadership, stands ready to ensure parliamentary approval. Northern Ireland can no longer be held back by the Tory Brexit purity cult. I interpret that to mean just hand the reins of Northern Ireland to Brussels and be done with it. And you can take that as a foretaste of how Labour intends to negotiate with Brussels if they ever do win the keys to number 10. Keir Starmer's Labour will achieve their aims of reversing Brexit one salami slice cut to sovereignty at a time. Now, what's this about no traffic lights on the roads in 20 years' time? Well, that one comes from the Smart Mobility Living Lab that reckons there will be so many driverless cars on the roads in the next 2 decades or so that traffic lights will no longer be needed. Well, if that's the case, then one supposes no road management schemes will be needed. But before people get the idea that we'll all own one of these things, then you might have to think again. Remember that should the likes of the WEF and Sadiq Khan and his 40 Cities programme get their way, people will all still be actively forced out of cars and stuck using shoe leather or bicycles within their local 15-minute areas. This is all still being rolled out, remember. So it's much more likely that unless you are obscenely wealthy, you will be hiring out these driverless cars by the hour, when your carbon footprint allows. And even if London gets a new mayor at the next election in May 2024, I bet they won't pull London out of the 40 Cities project. In fact, if I were a Londoner, I would vote for the mayor who said they would do so. Now, one thing about these driverless cars is that it takes a lot of technical horsepower to achieve it. And that includes a lot, I mean a lot, of surveillance systems to monitor everything that's going on around them. In fact, it's the best excuse yet for the total community surveillance system. And by the time you've factored in all the mobile devices you carry and the fact that these driverless cars have to be tracked everywhere by the second, there will be no hiding places. Oh, and don't think you'll be free from surveillance while you pedal about on your bicycle, because all bikes and the like will also have to be chipped and tracked, because they will be sharing the roads with driverless cars, won't they? They could even start enforcing insurance and charging bikes by the mile too, just like cars. The future they have planned for us is ominous.
What would happen if the truth were to come out about how safe a certain thing was that the masses rolled up their sleeves for in order to save themselves and Granny? What would happen if it turns out that that which was received via the arm has reduced their ability to have children and increased their chances of serious illness over a period of years, or even exiting this mortal coil with almost immediate effect? I mean, what happens when parents who encouraged their next of kin to receive it find their encouraging to do so, to do the right thing, has seriously damaged their health, ability to reproduce, or even resulted in the parents having to bury them? What happens with all that rage? Do the authorities think that the pain of losing children and ending entire lineages will be put back in the box and forgotten about? Or do you think there will be a day of reckoning? Do you think people would continue to comply with a system that demanded compliance to receive this certain thing? Do you think taxes would be paid and adherence to the law would remain intact? Well, it's a good job that it was and is safe, and no such outcome has or ever will materialise. Oh my goodness, can you just imagine what would happen if it wasn't safe? Doesn't bear thinking about. I mean, those that pushed such a dangerous thing would be, they'd be complicit in genocide, some would say. I wouldn't say it, but some would. And can you imagine what would happen next? Shudder. Can someone remind me what the normal course of action is when crimes against humanity take place and genocide has been committed? As I said, thank goodness that's all conspiracy theory nonsense, because it's perfectly safe. Okay, don't think anything else other than that. I mean, otherwise, politicians, celebrities, journalists, and so-called experts who pushed for this not-so-safe thing that is actually safe would all be facing a reckoning from the families and friends of those who were rendered infertile and departed the earth. People who departed the earth suddenly. We are seeing a bit of that, but it's not linked. It's not linked. You know, what about those people who would be given serious diagnosis? Thank goodness that's not happening either. So you lot, tell me what you think about this hypothetical scenario in the comment section below. And I'll see you later on at 5:45.